What's up, everybody? Metal Dave here, along with my co-host Jason McMaster, bringing you another episode of the Talk Louder podcast. Today, we are joined by the Lower Class Brats. We have singer Bones with us, as well as guitarist Marty. Bones and Marty are longtime friends of mine and Jason's. Our history goes back 30 years. The Lower Class Brats started in Austin, Texas, and have made their mark all over the world over the past 30 years. And as I told the guys, it's just so rewarding for me to watch friends of mine who started, jamming in their kitchen, have a global reach to where people around the world know who they are. People around the world tattoo their logo on their skin. They paint their mascot on the back of their leather jackets. Lower Class Brats are have definitely made their mark, and it's a point of pride for me in particular because I was there at the beginning, and I consider them lifelong friends, so I'm very happy for them. They're here today to discuss the reissue of their debut album. Debut album came out in 1997. It's called Rather Be Hated Than Ignored, and it is, in my opinion, a street punk masterpiece. It is a great, great record. I'm happy that they gave it the reissue treatment. I think it's been remastered. It comes with extra goodies and liner notes and that sort of thing. So well worth checking out. And I just haven't seen the guys in a while. They were in Austin in February. It was the first Brats gig back in Austin in years. And so I got to catch up with them there. But of course, they were working. They're doing a gig. So our hang time was limited. So today was great. It was fun to catch up and talk to them.
Great episode. I mean, we're usually on a roll, but this was a great hang today, man. And I hadn't seen these guys in forever. I can't remember the last time I was even in the same room with these guys, but these guys are honest. They're real. I love their band. They actually mean a lot to me because they're so honest and humble and real about what it is they do, how they carry themselves, and how much fun they're having just making music together and doing whatever it takes to, to bring on a great show, a great song, a great record, a great punk anthem. There were a lot of rabbit holes that we went down in this episode, and I enjoyed those as much as hearing you fanboy out them for at least 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, I couldn't help myself. There are very
you have a tattoo, so you have an LCD tattoo, so that speaks volumes.
Yeah, they're a very important band in my collection and in my personal history as well. Yeah. We should note that Marty and Bones are the core of the band. They're still going 30-some years after the fact. The lineup has changed numerous times. They have a different lineup today. Unfortunately, original bassist Rick Bratt passed away a few years ago. And Rob Bratt, the original drummer, has been out of the band for a number of years, although I do bump into him once in a great while at a metal show.
Rob is Rob played in bands that I shared the stage with Watchtower. Rob played in bands that played with Watchtower down at the Ritz all the time.
Yeah.
I've known Rob forever.
Yeah. So the core of Lower Class Brats, the original lineup, obviously not together anymore, but they are, of course, featured on that reissued debut album. If you get a chance to go see them, you'll see a new lineup, but the intensity is still there. They are a great live band. If you get a chance to go check them out, please do so. In the meantime, look for their reissued album, Rather Be Hated Than Ignored. Lower Class Brats today on the Talk Louder podcast.
Yeah. You sound great.
You sound great.
Okay. I'm a first timer with this, so my setup is kind of thrown together. I just have my laptop in front of me. So
you are sounding and looking like you've done this a million times. When's your podcast start coming out?
I'm working on it.
Okay, good.
2026, baby.
Yep, good. Right? You don't need COVID to start yours. That's what started ours. As we were stuck at home, and someone said y'all should have a podcast.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar situation right now anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool, guys. Thanks for joining us, man. I got to tell you, last night I went down an LCB wormhole, rabbit hole, whatever, and it was so much fun. It brought back so many memories because I've known you since the beginning, and I do believe I have everything you ever released. I was going through the original 6, 7 inches, the LPs, the CDs. I do think I have everything except all the young dudes are pissed 45. I don't think I have that, but
It's on its way.
it's held up in the mail. I have everything else, and some of them I think I even have like limited color variations. So as I'm going through all this stuff, it's bringing back so many memories because I was there when when you released all that stuff.
So Dave, you pay these guys rent. You pay these guys rent.
Yeah,
apparently.
there was a time I was
He helped
practically
with a couple packs of cigarettes. It's
There was a time I was practically living with Marty, but we'll get into that later. But anyway, all this to say,
that's what she said.
all this to say, I really enjoyed the trip down memory lane because you and I have known each other for so long, and the history is, you guys are definitely a chapter in my musical history, much like Jason is, and I do appreciate it. But today, I wanted to talk first of all, and we'll get into some other things. I wanted to talk about
show and tell,
the recent reissue of your debut album, Rather Be Hated Than Ignored. What a beauty and what a classic album. Came out in 1997, and I know this wasn't your first time in the studio. You recorded this first, and but this was your first time recording a full LP. So take me back to your days in the studio. You mentioned some of it in the liner notes on this album, but I want to hear it from you guys. What do you recall about your first time into the studio recording a full LP with our friend Ben Burton?
I was just going to say with Ben Burton.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So take us back. Walk us through the making of this album.
Through the making of the album itself.
The recording of it.
The record. Well, I think that from my memory, after recording with Ben so much, it was, and most of the songs had already been recorded. Like you said, there was a bunch of singles and everything.
Right.
And I always thought doing single versions of songs and then re-recording them for the albums was always key. I always thought that was really, really cool. But if you got the single, it sounded different than the album. But recording the album was for me, I remember it being pretty simple because we'd already done the songs all before,
Right.
I think it was a little bit of fine tuning on them,
pre-production.
Right. That's what singles were pre-production.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I remember it being a little simpler. I remember it costing us $250 from Ben,
Yeah.
Studio B down on 5th Street upstairs.
The bro deal.
The bro deal. I don't even think that was a bro deal. I think that's what.
Yeah, you might be right, but that for the whole record, you paid $250 for the whole record.
Something like that. Yeah.
Wow,
really
that's
cool.
crazy.
I remember getting a check from GMM, who originally put it out, and telling Ben that tell him to write something out that it cost $500, so we could get a check for $500.
Yeah.
From GMM, and it didn't cost us $500, so we were all stoked. Like, fuck, I got a check for $500.
That's called a grant.
Yeah.
$500 and a 6-pack of Lone Star.
I do remember
rebate. You got a rebate.
Yeah.
I do remember playing a gig and having Tim Kerr from the Big Boys was there at the show, and he wanted to produce the band, and he was doing bands like the Motards, and he was producing a lot of bands in Austin at the time, and outside of Austin, I believe too. I think this is time when he was in Monkey Wrench around then, the mid '90s. But I'm like, he wanted $500, and 96 is a lot of money, you know.
Oh, yeah.
We got the check, but that was all after the fact, you know. It would have been really nice to have Tim Kerr come in and do some stuff for us, but the stuff that I was hearing coming out from Tim Kerr was mostly the garage rock around Austin, and we weren't that band, you know. We didn't want to be lo-fi. We wanted everything. We wanted it to sound overproduced compared to the bands that were going on at the time in Austin, you know. We wanted to sound like a rock band.
Yeah.
And I didn't think Tim Kerr would get that out of us in my head. And I think that if we would have saved up the money and done it, he would have got it. It would have sounded amazing. You know?
I think Ben Burton likes to put low end, and he likes to do close miking. So you had a tighter sound than probably not all, but a lot of your constituents, which is where it sounds like what you're describing.
Right.
And like the pre-production, probably on the same machine, that Tascam, it might have been a Tascam. It was a reel-to-reel machine. I think all the Godzilla Motor Company stuff was done with Ben Burton on that same machine.
Right.
Yeah. And that stuff sounded fat.
It did. I mean, well, he was like the king of bouncing everything down.
Yeah.
You know, he just bounced all the tracks back, you know, once he got what he wanted, and boom, 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 you know, and because it was a little machine.
Yeah.
One, you know, it wasn't but yeah, it was done on tape. It wasn't digital, you know.
Why was the time right to reissue it now?
Marty?
Because it has been it's been re-released in the past. I believe in 2001 it came out with a different running order or something. Is that right? And then, but this one that's just been reissued is back to the original running order track listing. And anyway, I was just curious to know why now. What was the impetus?
Almost on 30 years since the original came out. Not quite, almost.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah. Well, that album, I remember hearing it, and you guys, as you guys know, it's got my favorite song of all time out of any genre. Orphans Don't Run is on that record, and it is my absolute all-time favorite song. And one of the reasons for that is the guitar riff on that song is so, the word I always use is just tough. It just sounds tough. And that song goes through my head, I kid you not. To this day, I probably have it going through my head 3 or 4 times a day. I'll be watching TV, stand up to go to the fridge, goes through my brain. It's always with me. I love that song. And I remember that album, when it first came out, was like nothing I'd ever heard from people that I knew, right? Like I was aware of punk rock, but I was aware of all the legacy bands, the Ramones, the Misfits, the Sex Pistols, the Clash, etc. I'd heard of the Circle Jerks, Black Flag. But when I met you guys in Houston, our friend Houston Richardson, I remember hanging out at his house one day, and the two of you were on your way over, and he said, if you like my band, wait till you see these guys. You're going to love these guys. And you guys walked in the door, and I'll never forget this. Marty was wearing a Celtic Frost t-shirt. And I'd never seen two guys that looked like you guys in the flesh with my own 2 eyes. It was like, holy crap. They had do-it-yourself haircuts and all these scratchy tattoos. And I was like, this is the genuine article. And the album reflects that to my ears at that time. And as you said, Bones, there was not, you guys definitely stood out in Austin at the time. Fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, that hence the title of the record. I think I talk about that in the liner notes of where, you know, we used to play this place, the Blue Flamingo.
Yeah.
Where I think that was the first place we had played besides playing in Marty's kitchen.
Right.
You know, or in his bedroom where we would rehearse.
South House.
Yes.
Or at the South House. Yeah. Yeah.
It's on my list here. Yeah.
So we were the Blue Flamingo, and you know, in the back room of the Blue Flamingo, there's actually a photo of that in the single that you held up, the first single. In the back room of the Blue Flamingo, there's a little not little, was it? There was a pool table, excuse me, and a bunch of scrawling, like people just writing all over the fucking walls and everything. So I wrote in big letters. I went and wrote Lower Class Brats, like huge on the wall, right? And we came back to find people just clowning us, and just writing all the shit like, they suck, they sound like Garth Brooks or what, just whatever, right? I remember something about country music or something like that, which I thought was really strange. That's why it sticks in my head. But we were sitting there, Rob looked up at it and he's like, well, I'd rather be hated than ignored, and it's just like, oh shit, that's fucking it, And the thing was, it was like, as it felt kind of like, fuck, man, because chances are I knew these people that were writing. The scene was small.
Right.
And so it's like, there's friends talking shit. And it
sounds familiar.
Right. Yeah. It hurts, and you don't know who they are. So, but, in hindsight, looking back at that, we were making a fucking impression.
Right.
And people knew who the fuck we were. And it let the rumor mill fucking start, man. Go. You know, there's no bad press at this point. Let's just fucking do it. People don't like us. Let them not like us. I don't care. We have a scene. We have the people that will come to our shows, and we just, I think that in itself for me was a lot of reason to fucking really dig our heels in and really show people that's like, yeah, we're not going to go away. This is it,
Right.
Well, and the kind of band that you are, it would seem like you don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would almost be like, it wouldn't surprise me if a band such as yourselves would do something like this. Write the name of your band on the bathroom wall and then write the word sucks even bigger right under it, just to get the shit ball rolling. Or under a fake name, review your album and say that it was the worst piece of shit you've ever heard, but everyone needs to hear this to correct me.
I like the way you think, Jason.
No, it's real. It's fucking real.
Oh, no, it's 100% real.
Yeah. So and this is and back to legit your story and the timing and everything that Dave is saying. I feel like social media, I just threw up on my mouth a little bit, is it is not part of people's quote personalities yet in 96, 97, whatever, 98.
Yeah.
Not yet, right? So there's no like pen is mightier than the pen is mightier than the sword. It's like you're the fucking sword already. There's no pen. So
there was no way to troll. That's how you trolled back then. You just you flyered over the other guy's flyer and you scratched something derogatory under his band name, and that was how you trolled back then.
I mean, I remember as well as I'm sure you guys do too, being on the drag on Guadalupe when in the 90s when when people used to hang out, down there and it was a really cool scene down there at the time. It was kind of fun, a lot of record stores and everything, and people going and flyering on the telephone poles.
Yeah.
Having the wars and like waiting, someone's flyering and you're half a block behind them and you're just putting shit over their flyers, and it's happened to us and I've done it, to other bands. Sure. And, but that was definitely a little trolling back then too,
Yeah. Tell us about you've told this story before, but for the sake of our audience, tell me the story about the origins of the band name, because it's one of the greatest band names of all time. Lower Class Brats. It comes from a Germs record or something. Is that right?
It came from Shit, you should have heard the names I came up with before Lower Class.
Oh, details.
No. Marty, I'm sure Marty remembers. They're super goofy. But so the name Lower Class. So there was this band. I was living in Hyde Park with Sean McGowan, who was became the singer of the Chumps, and Johnny Motard, the singer of the Motards. And so this is it. I went to Europe with my then girlfriend, and I was going to start a band with this guy named Frankie, and he was trying to learn how to play guitar at the time. And coming back from Europe, I remember walking in the house and he's playing bass. Sean McGowan is singing. They're in the living room and they're practicing. We had a drum kit in our living room at the time, and they're practicing. And I was kind of bummed, I'm like, I want to start a band with these guys. I was gone for, probably 3 weeks in Europe. And I wanted to start a band with Frankie really bad. And this band ended up becoming the Chumps. Right.
Yeah.
So Frankie and I, being really big Germs fans, he was throwing around names for the Chumps, and one of the names was Lower Class Brats. And I asked him if I could use it, knowing that where it came from. So where it did come from was liner notes out of Germicide from the Germs. It was Live at the Whiskey, I believe, in 78 maybe. It was a cassette tape that came out on Roar. Roar Cassettes out of New York. They're the ones that put out the original Bad Brains with the lightning bolt, that came down on the Capitol building.
Yeah.
That was actually a cassette tape, and now it's been reissued as an album. You find it as an album everywhere. But it was the same cassette company.
Okay.
They put out the Germs thing. So it called in the liner notes, and I want to think that it was like Michael Board or there was the guy that wrote it was at the time. He went on to go be one of the main writers for Maximum Rock and Roll. But he had called the Germs, whoever it was, had called the Germs, said that he walked into the show and saw a fan club of 7 surfers and a bunch of lower class brats. And that was how he described the show for the Germs.
Perfect.
And so Lower Class Brats, that's where it came from the Germs thing. And Frankie actually came up with that. And we asked him to use it. And I remember Rick not liking it at all. I remember Rick really disliking the name, but it stuck, and it was easy. LCB rolls off the tongue, Yeah.
And,
looking back and playing shows now as a brat, it's a little strange, but it's I think it's a good name. I think it sticks in people's heads, but it was that's the origin of the name, where it came from.
I think it's great, and I've told Jason this before, and I think I've told everybody, you can't overstate the value of a great band name. Like when you hear Lower Class Brats, you know exactly what you're getting. In Jason's case, when you hear Broken Teeth, you know exactly what you're getting. And that's, to me, super important, because I might go to the record store and buy that on name alone. And I might decide it sucks, but I bought it, or I'll see it, I'll see that band's playing a show somewhere, and I'm like, oh, I got to go see what this is about, just on name alone. Right. So I've always thought the name was fantastic. And the Frankie you speak of is Frankie Nowhere, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, Frankie Nowhere. Part of the Austin scene still here. Tell me about you guys, your Droog Skull mascot, if you will, is famous around the world now. And when did you guys realize that you were making an impact beyond not just Texas, but beyond the United States? Because when I go to your Facebook page or your social media or whatever, and I see all the photos of LCB tattoos, and they're very elaborate, ornate leather jackets that people have taken time to paint and everything, that's got to just blow your mind for a bunch of guys that started in a garage on Lightsey.
Well, we actually started at Marty's bedroom right outside of Hyde Park.
Okay. All right. Even
It's,
smaller.
well, which was, the lightsey thing is, the remembering being in Marty's bedroom, like trying to, singing around his bed. There's one little bed in there, and it was just covered. The walls are just amplifiers, and I sang through a PA that was plugged into an Ampeg refrigerator cabinet, I think, if I remember correctly, that was right next to the door to go into the bathroom.
Yeah, you remember the power outlets would spark and turn black? Like, it was a totally sketchy fire hazard situation.
Sounds pretty rock and roll to me.
Yeah. But seriously, I mean, you guys from humble beginnings, I remember, things started to take off, and then social media did become a thing. So you had things like MySpace, and people started making websites, and all of a sudden I'm seeing evidence that people around the world know who you are. And to me, you're like this band that was at the Blue Flamingo in Austin. And now people in Japan have the Droog skull on their leather jacket, and they're starting to get tattoos with your logo and all this stuff. Do you remember the first time that you realized that, wow, we've got a global reach?
Well, for me, the first time, I'll let Marty go on with this, but for me, the first time knowing that we made an impact was Dave was seeing your tattoo, the very first Lower Class Brats tattoo I'd ever seen before on your chest. And, I think I think we'd been around maybe a year and a half, and he comes and check this out. Your old pec's done. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
But now
That for me, like literally, Dave, that's when I'm like, oh shit, you're not even part of the punk scene that I know.
Yeah.
He's a fucking dirt head, man.
Yeah.
LCD tattoo. Like, it's a rocker with and it really said something to me that we were making a reach, though, and we were reaching someplace outside of our little circle in Austin of the couple hundred punk rockers or skinheads that we were playing for. And it really, we were playing for you too, but it really made an impact on me. It meant, I want to tell you how much it meant to me that I saw something that was like, okay, I think we're doing okay. We're reaching a larger audience than, this guy's got more metal records than punk, and he loves us. It's like, oh, okay, this is cool, So
Yeah.
for me, that's what it was. Marty I'm sure Marty has a different perspective, or maybe the same.
Yeah. I mean, looking at that, I think we were pretty lucky that like our first releases were an English label with like European distribution and everything. So, our shit got out there pretty early, and we were just the time that we started, I think it was all at the beginning of that kind of what became like the street punk scene,
Yeah.
So,
that's a great point about the European distribution. I mean, you're kind of already there in a sense, and then it just grows from that point.
Yeah. It's kind of like the right place at the right time, and I guess our music stood out. So
Yeah. I remember, I think, Bones always says that I was the first to get the LCB tattoo, but a couple of the guys in the band had it, but it was kind of, about this big on your forearm or something. I don't remember, one of you guys. Yeah, you got the LCB Army.
We all got it. So
that's right. Yeah,
I got
all
mine
four
right
of the
there.
original members have the LCB Army tattoo.
Okay, there you go. But I was the first outsider, I guess, that came in, and I, it's like I said, you guys just made such an immediate impact on me. I was blown away, and so that brings me back to something. When I moved to Austin in '95, that's when you guys basically started. And I met you right away. And back in those days, guys like me and Jason would be we'd be freaked out at a punk rock show because long hairs and metal dudes didn't fit in with the punks and the skins. It was much more political then, and I don't mean politics as in government. I mean cultural politics. The skins and the punks and the long hairs and the metalheads didn't get along for whatever.
I have an opinion about that, but carry on.
But I wanted to know, and then it eventually relaxed. And I wanted to ask you guys if you remember when it kind of cooled off and why. Because I remember being at your gigs and at your scene and feeling very protected because I knew you guys and I knew Houston. And Houston was pretty imposing character. But I just remember I'd never been in a situation where going to a gig meant you had to be looking over your shoulder. Because I'm from San Antonio and it's a metal. You go to a show to party and throw down and be with like-minded people. But when I moved to Austin, it was almost like, okay, if we're going to see that band, then this rival gang is going to show up and there's going to be fights and all this stuff.
It's like that. It's like that everywhere. I saw crossover starting to happen in the 80s with Watchtower. Watchtower played with MDC and the Big Boys, and I mean, we were invited to play with the Offenders and all those guys before there were any other metal bands. Of course, Watchtower's not like any other metal band either. There was no class. There was no box to put that kind of loud and fast into at that point, 84, 85, 86. So I saw crossover starting to happen by 86. So 10 years later with you guys having shows, playing in bars, pubs, whatever, the Blue Flamingo, which is known for many things. I see what Dave is saying. It's probably a mixed crowd, and you're probably got an eye on the back of your head. A little bit still. But I saw it like become like casual because I was invited, and this is relatable to what Dave's point and you guys' point within discussion, where eventually everybody knew each other, and it was like there were less fights, and you could see skins diving next to hippies, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just, go ahead, Bones. I wanted to get your recollection on that time period and then when sort of the ice started to melt and everybody some of the violence went away and some of the classifications sort of faded out and it was just, more of a melting pot.
Yeah, so with Jason, with what Jason said, so I grew up in the punk scene here in San Diego in the early 80s. And punk rockers, metalheads did not get along. It was a whole different scene back then. It was high school for me. So, I started high school in 83 and there was, the lunch tables, right? You're over here, they're over there, right? And you didn't, you crossed paths maybe and like, fuck you, and like kept walking. And it's, it's like music is so important to young people. So important. It's shaping their lives at that point. And I think, and you hold it to heart, there's like bands like this is my band. This is my music. And it's something that's yours finally that you can grab onto. That's not your parents or anything like that. It's, you're finally getting to this age. And I think it really makes, a big difference in people's lives, and it changes and starts shaping them in their teenage years. That being said, I remember it was 1985, and I still have it. I was just looking at the other day. I have the flyer for the first metal show I went to. Of course, when I was a kid, Kiss was the band, and I got to see them in the 70s. But, by 80, 81, I was done. I was listening to more club music, than arena rock. I started listening to the Specials and Black Flag or the Sex Pistols, right? Adam and the Ants, whatever it may have been that was different.
Right.
And in 85, I had met some metal dudes and I was kind of like iffy on them. I'm like, these guys, but they were really interested in punk. So they were interested in what I was listening to, not so much me being interested in what they were listening to, because you could hear Iron Maiden anywhere. You know, you couldn't hear, you know, Saccharine Trust anywhere, right? So it's like, I wasn't really, I knew what they were into, but they were really kind of diving in. They're like, we want to take you to this show. And I went to go see, it was an opening band called Bible Black from San Diego with Slayer and then Venom. And they took me to the show, and I'm like, I'm going to get my ass kicked. I'm seriously going to get the shit kicked out of me. And that's when I realized it's like, these aren't the same metalheads. Now, these are the Iron Maiden and Judas Priest guys over here. And then you got these Slayer guys or Exciter or whoever it may be over here. It's different. These aren't the same people. It's a whole new scene. And that's when the crossover started happening. I remember going to see DRI one year. The next year, it was just filled with metalheads. It was crazy. It was like 1 year later, boom, you know, from dealing with it to crossover, completely different show. And
DRI, I mean, has been known. They're a perfect example of crossover, along with COC. All of those guys were playing with metal bands almost the entire time. You just didn't really know. It was like one-offs here and there. But, you know, when you talk about DRI, I mean, the first probably large tour that they did, where they were sort of either in the middle or one of the support bands, was when they toured with Metal Church and Anthrax, and that was in 1986. There it is. Yeah, dude. You
see, I remember this shit.
Prophecy.
I have all my flyers are sitting up here, so I just
Prophecy. Oh yeah, Prophecy, man, Prophecy.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think I just remember being in the middle of it, and you know, you hear all the stories about Motorhead and the Plasmatics kind of brought the two crowds together. And I wasn't in the middle of it at that time. But when you guys were formed in Austin and I was out at the punk rock shows, I remember standing out, but not really too concerned. I think all my friends were more concerned than I was. Like Houston was always like on guard, you know?
He was very protective of you. Yeah. No,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You know, not to linger on this one subject, but I feel like your description is very interesting, how there was an invisible line between, like, you got your Judas Priest and your Iron Maiden fans over here, and then you got your Slayer fans and a little bit more of an underground. Well, these guys over here, they're buying stuff on the end cap. They're buying what might have had a single on the radio. These metalheads over here, they're digging through. They're from the underground. They're digging into the bins, finding, whoa, look at that. Whoa, I'm buying this. And it harkens back to what Dave said on Lower Class Brats' name alone. I'm going to see that. I'm buying a T-shirt, and eventually I'm going to tattoo their logo on my tits. So you see where I hate it. I don't like divide, but you have to kind of put that in perspective that, you know, some of these guys here are a little bit more of the popular variety, and these guys over here are not afraid to get their hands dirty searching for something darker, maybe murky, you know, that's maybe crossed over a little bit. Even though when Iron Maiden and Judas Priest started, they were the alternative music.
Yeah.
So, but they became what they became quick enough to where someone who bought the Led Zeppelin after they heard it on the radio, then they heard Paranoid on the radio. It's, you know what I mean? They're just following through with their guts. They're not digging into, whoa, I heard this band Motorhead, and then they're fucked after that. They're buying punk and thrash, and, you know, they're just, they've become a rainbow of colors as opposed to just the colors on top.
Right. Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. And I think that later on, when punk started being played on the radio, you know, I mean, I think punk might predate heavy metal as we know it, as Maiden and Priest and that, but by not much, by about a year. You know, I mean, if you want to go back to Black Sabbath, of course, before, right?
Yeah.
But as metal as we know it, heavy metal, right? Priest, Maiden, etc.
Do you guys know, hold that thought, do you guys know what song Johnny Rotten first auditioned for the Sex Pistols with?
Alice
Cooper, right?
Yeah.
18?
Yeah, I can't remember the Alice Cooper song.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Probably 18. Yeah.
Yeah.
18. Yeah.
Yeah. That says something. It made me think of that, just kind of a dot on the map of something that you just said. I mean, you went back, you know, it started in the 70s pre-metal, but there was probably some kind of proto-metal that pundits, they didn't know what to call it yet. There was like when early AC/DC records came out in early 70s, the writers at Sounds magazine and all the European and British magazines are, what is this? Is this punk rock?
Right.
They probably said the same thing about Tutti Frutti.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
you
man.
know, but I really think that someone like Cooper and the Alice Cooper Band were American versions of what was kind of going on in Europe with the glam scene.
Yeah.
You know, and in the States you had Alice Cooper and you had Susie Quattro and bands like that were I wouldn't say imitating, but their own versions of what this revolution of newer music, you know, after a lot of boring rock and roll, and they're trying to up it a little bit. And you got bands like, you know, that were going at the same time. You have Slade and the Sweet that were having the same time as Alice Cooper.
Yeah, Queen. You could even throw Queen in there. The first couple of Queen records.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
David Bowie is a big player in all of that.
100%. And I think these bands were more so influential on punk than they were on heavy metal.
Right.
In my opinion, you know.
Sure.
You know, Slade, the Sweet, Cooper, maybe not Cooper, but you know,
I think some of that is even tying into like what would be called early psychedelic too. I mean, early Pink Floyd. I mean, there's songs that are full on metal and punk sounding in the Syd Barrett years.
Yeah, sure.
There's crazy shit going on, man. Anyway.
But you guys have a great mix of that in your band. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I view Marty as more of the metal glam guy, and I view Bones as more of the punk rock, rock and roll. You know, just you know, standard rock and roll meets punk rock is Bones, glam meets metal is Marty. Is that fair? Or
Yeah, I'll take it.
yeah.
Well, I've always loved Marty's playing, and it fits what Dave said. You know what I mean? It's like, I think 3 out of 4 dudes in this room right now have rose tattoos. So there you go. There's a Motorhead, there's a dirty rock and roll sort of like fan club going on in this room, and Metal Dave included. But the point is where you guys are coming from. It's kind of a no-brainer. You guys have covered some of your favorite bands, whether they're considered a punk band or not. I mean, Rose Tattoo's pretty punk.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. So speaking of Rose Tattoo, you guys recently went to Australia, and you've been overseas a handful of times. And again, this is one of these things that makes me just beam with pride when I remember my friends on Lightsea are now playing in front of, you know, thousands of people at some festival overseas. You know, you had to get on a plane and fly to that gig. What's the largest audience you've played in front of?
Marty?
I guess it would probably be festival audiences, either Punk Rock Bowling or Rebellion Fest, I think. Is there anything else you can think of, Bones?
No, I would say probably Punk Rock Bowling. I think that was, I mean, comparably to an amount of people that Jason has played in front of. But it's small, but I think that was about 5,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot of people.
That's the biggest audience we played in front of.
And we were just talking about Rose Tattoo, and I think I mentioned to you guys that we had Angry Anderson on the podcast, and I showed him this, and I told him about the Lower Class Brats and the fact that you covered We Can't Be Beaten, and he got the biggest kick out of the name. Again, we go back to the name. He repeated it after I told him who you guys were, and he goes, Lower Class Brats, and he just got the biggest kick out of it. And then he asked if I could send him a link to your version of the of the song, and I think I did. I had to probably send it through his publicist, and I don't know if he ever got it or not. But
From what I've heard, there's been a lot of, obviously a lot of people covering Rose Tattoo, and that he actually goes and listens to that stuff.
Yeah, he seemed very interested. It was genuine. I mean, he definitely took note of the name and wanted to know more about you and wanted to hear your version of the song. Let's go back to the South House, because I've always said that somebody needs to make a documentary of the South House. And for our viewers and our listeners who aren't familiar, the South House was a 2-story house in South Austin, Texas, on a street called Lightsey. And as I recall, it was basically Marty's place. But at any given time, there was like 20 people crashed out over there and some band playing in the kitchen. Is that right? Was it your house, Marty? Or
well, I moved in there and took over. Basically, I switched places with some other friends of ours that lived there. But yeah, I basically took over, put my name on the lease, took the hit for that. Yeah.
Brave.
Yeah, that was some crazy times, man. Some good times, a lot of partying, some pretty dark times at the beginnings of them, if I want to look back on that. But
yeah,
yeah.
That was like something I'd never experienced. And I'm not joking when I say you could go there any night, and people didn't just park in the driveway. They parked on the front yard, and there was a life-size pinhead at the front door looking through the window. That was the first thing you saw. Beer cans piled up in the front yard. And I'll never forget going over there one day, and I pull up, and the neighbor was literally building a wall, like had cement and bricks, and was building a wall to separate his front yard from the South House front yard.
It was their grass next door was dying.
Yeah, and in Motorhead fashion, the lawn next door was dying. This guy was literally building a wall one day when I pulled up, because he was probably sick of of what he saw and heard and dealt with all these punkers showing up.
It's probably the ultimate passive aggression,
Yeah, right.
I'm sure they were afraid of us.
Well, whether they were calling your landlord or not and trying to strike a deal with the landlord or something, and it wasn't working out in your favor, it worked out because you still live there. You could still have a party on the lawn, but he sounds like that your neighbor lost, and Dave was witness to the post, the trips to Home Depot. Yeah.
Right. Like that house, I remember I had a mattress in a closet, so I was sleeping there so often. Somebody gave me donated and now when I think back on it, I'm almost horrified to even think what kind of insects and diseases and whatever might have been festering in that mattress. But I slept there, no questions asked. There was a potbelly pig running around. And the thing I remember is one time I walked in and there was a band playing in the dining area right off the kitchen, like Marty was talking about earlier. And I walked into the kitchen and the floor was totally sticky. You couldn't stay anywhere for too long or you'd be stuck. And I'm walking through this sticky mess, and there's a restroom off the kitchen, and the door is off the hinges. The light doesn't work. So you kind of like got to move the door to the side, walk in, and I'm standing there taking a leak, and I look down in the trash can, and there's a bunch of chicken bones in the trash can. Oh, and the sink was overflowing. And I was like, oh my God, this place, man, it was crazy, man. You guys had touring bands that would play there, right? Didn't I see yesterday's Youth or last year's Youth or somebody?
Yeah, last year's Youth, right, Marty?
Yeah, they came through. There's a few bands, just, punk bands that didn't have a place to play in town or coming through. Yeah.
Yeah. It was legendary.
Actually, the cover for Rather Be Hated.
Yeah.
That photograph was excuse me. Yeah, that photograph was taken in the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we had spray painted. So behind us, like you can't really see it, but Lower Class Brats was spray painted real big behind us on that wall, and yeah. So
Those are the best. Those are the best photo shoots.
What's that, Jason?
Those are the best photo shoots.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The whole place was like, that's why I keep saying somebody needs to make a documentary, because no matter how hard I try to describe it, I'll never do it justice. Unless you were there, I could speak about it all day and it just won't quite hit the nail on the head. It was a trip, man. It was wild. That was so much fun. Bands in the kitchen, cars in the front yard, beer cans everywhere. And a neighbor building a wall. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like suburbia or something.
Yeah.
Marty?
I said it's like suburbia or something.
It was just like suburbia. Yeah, Chris trying to make cider out of pickle buckets, and it was pickle cider. Yeah.
Wow.
Chaos.
It was 100% fights out in the street in the front yard.
I remember that too. And you guys used to do like keg parties at the end of the month to pay rent. Like I remember working the door a couple times, or $3 or whatever, and trying to make the rent.
I'm remembering now that you mention it, like the cause of a lot of that chaos is because we had roommates that were skinheads. We had roommates that were crusty punks.
Yes.
And there was always like at that time, that was
drama.
That didn't really mix. That was like oil and water, at that time.
Some drama. Yeah.
Yeah, drama.
Well, I currently live about 10, 15 minutes away from the South House. And as my son has gotten older and into music, I drove him by there one day and we parked on the curb and I said, "See that house right there? Let me tell you about it." And I gave him a whole history lesson on the South House and his eyes were just bugging out. He couldn't believe that his dad was a part of such chaos, but yes, I was indeed. Let's talk a little bit about your last album. Also amazing, and it was great to hear new music after so long. Tales of the Wild, the Ugly, and the Damned. And I love this album cover. And as you mentioned earlier, Suzi Quatro is featured on the cover. And Ghost is one of my new favorite LCB songs. I love that song. So, just give us a little rundown on this. When did you record it? What took so long, et cetera, et cetera.
Marty?
Yeah, that recording was done, a while back, 2017, before that, 2016, right before I left
2016.
Texas and moved to San Diego. As far as why it took so long to come out, I really don't know. I asked that question for, about 8 years straight. So,
yeah. Well, for me anyway, it was worth the wait, and it's a great collection of songs. And I know I've seen reviews online. Everybody's kind of saying what I'm saying. It's been a while. We're glad to hear some new songs from these guys. It's great. There's everybody's got their favorite tracks, etc. But Ghost is the one for me. Like Orphans Don't Run is to me the ultimate LCB song, and again my favorite song of all time. But Ghost is like right there, and I'm like, I was so happy to hear that another song that many years later could rival Orphans Don't Run, because that's saying a lot. So congratulations on that. You guys,
Ghost, what's that?
No, go ahead. Tell me about Ghost.
Ghost, I really like the song. It's I was just gonna say it's our Jim Carroll, our People Who Died song.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's a lot of truth in all those lyrics. That's
yeah, the lyrics are dark. It's
real dark.
It's not the feel good song of the summer. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's not the feel good song of the summer, but much like Orphans, the guitar riff and the guitar grind and the crunch or whatever you want to, whatever word you want to use to describe Marty's tone, it's just, it's menacing. And I love that about it. You guys, you guys returned to Austin last February, 9-10 months ago for the first time in ages, like years and years. And the turnout was awesome. It was amazing. Tell us about that. What took you so long to get back to Austin? Were you pleasantly surprised? I'm sure you were. Did you get to catch up with old friends? Tell us about your return trip to Austin.
Well, we caught up with you.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah.
I was wishing I was hoping Jason would make it, but I know you were busy. So, we missed you. Just want to say that.
Thank you.
For me personally, it was well, I could say the reason we didn't play Austin for a long time is because we thought people didn't care. We had been there for so long and played so many shows in Austin that it started to get, before Marty moved and myself back to Marty moving to San Diego, me back home in San Diego. The shows weren't very, there wasn't a whole lot of people coming out. And so it's like, well, people don't give a shit anymore. So within a few years before we even left, for a couple of years, we just stopped playing Austin. And we're like, no one gives a shit anymore. They don't care about us. We can go play LA, we'll go to the observatory in LA and go play for 1,200 people. We don't have to do this.
Right.
So we actually came back and did a tour with Lars Fredrikson's from Rancid's other band, the old From Casuals, and we skipped Austin. We did a Texas tour, and we're just like, we're not going to play. No one gives a shit, and it was really sad, and it really bummed me out. We flew in and out of Austin for that tour, did not play.
Oh, man.
And coming back when we did this and went and played at Come and Take It, or Antone's, or whatever the hell you want to call that place. I mean, it's been a million different things.
Yeah.
I think it was Antone's at one time, right?
For a minute.
For a minute, it's it was called the Beauty Bar for a minute. It was called the Grizzly for a minute. But come and Take It is really kind of dug it's Come and Take It live.
I think it was a hip hop bar when it was the back room, right?
It was. I want to say it was a Tejano bar, and I want to say it was called Carnival, like carnival or something weird like that. Yeah,
it was definitely a Tejano bar. Yeah. Talk about two crowds not mixing, but anyway,
it's going back and playing it, Come and Take It, was for me personally very overwhelming. I didn't expect the turnout that we got. I didn't expect the people to come out that did. There was people there from, Sean McGowan from the Chumps. I mean, he was there when we named the band. It was his name. There was to people that I've just recently met before I left. Right? For me, and to have all those people there that came out and supported the band or just wanted to say hi, and was something I'll never forget. And it was I cried on stage. It just looking down and seeing all those faces that I've known throughout the years, and people, some of these people have never even met each other, and seeing all those people was extremely overwhelming for me. I mean, Dave, you were backstage with Wes and Tammy. You saw me, I was like tears in my eyes, and and it was really something else. And we are coming back to Austin to play. We already have something kind of in the works at this point right now. But the one thing I know, everyone's like, oh, when you coming back? When you coming back? And I'm like, I don't want to make it too soon, because it's not going to be like this again. And, I'm tearing up right now just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Austin has such a big impact in my life. It's where I became who I am, was there. It wasn't here in San Diego. Austin shaped me. And those people that came out were the people that helped mold me into who I am. And, you know, I know it's never going to be that show again. It will never be that show. So we have something a little different, a little bit more special to come back to that we're going to do. And we don't want to come back and play like something like that again. We have something else in mind that we're working on. So we will be back to Austin, but that show was really something else for me. Marty?
I'm super happy that it was that special for you. I'm sorry to cut you off, Marty.
Thank you, Jason.
Back to that question. I mean, for me, I'm from Texas. I was born in Texas. I grew up in Central Texas. Moved to Austin in '89. You know, through 2016, and Lower Class Brats are an Austin band. We started in Austin. You know, so don't want to forget that. Again, and being back really was a feel good moment. So
yeah, I remember Bones. I remember you in particular because you're the guy with the mic, but I could tell that it was hitting you on an emotional level. And even for the people in the crowd, I think it was a mutual feeling like, we missed you, man. You're our friends. Your music has meant so much to us over all the years we were there from the beginning. And of course we're going to show up. And it meant a lot for us. It meant as much for us as it meant for you. And so we appreciated you being there. I was happy that it struck a chord with you. I could tell. And you know, as much as you want to thank the crowd for turning out, we in turn wanted to thank you for all the music and the memories, because you are definitely inextricably linked to a lot of our upbringing and our musical memories and our youth, you know, and all those things that you never forget in a lifetime. So yeah, almost a soundtrack of sorts for so many of us. So I'm glad to hear you're coming back.
Thanks. That means a lot, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask you one last question before we wrap up. Bones, I see all the Kiss stuff behind you. I know that you're a Kiss fan. I know you saw Kiss on the Dynasty tour. I think it was your first concert, maybe.
Yeah.
And I remember when the Brats were first getting started, and I was the metalhead in the crowd, and you used to always give me grief about my long hair. I had Steve Harris from Iron Maiden hair. I had like really, really long hair.
That the reason I did that comes back to what me and Jason were talking about. So I just had to carry it on. The feud. No,
yeah.
I loved you from the start. You know that, Dave.
You always gave me grief about my long hair and called me a hippie, and you've made it known. But at the time, I don't think I ever knew that you were a Kiss fan and that Kiss was your first concert and that Kiss had such an impact on you. And I don't know if that's because it was something you were hiding back then because it was going to hurt your street cred. I don't know how I didn't know about that because I'm a huge Kiss fan. But yet you were always giving me grief about my hair and my metal records and all this stuff. And you're a closet Kiss fan the whole time.
Hey, man, when Kiss was cool, it was also uncool, too. I got my ass beat so many times for wearing a Kiss T-shirt to school every fucking day.
100%.
And it was fucking 1976.
Yeah.
So what the fuck, you know? Kiss is a gateway band. They were, you know, you're who you need to be because of Kiss.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
100%. I don't think, you know, this band, and Marty included, you know, this band wouldn't be who we are without a band like Kiss. And I don't think, you know, Dangerous Toys probably wouldn't have been a band without a band like Kiss.
Of course.
You know, but I also remember the time, as you probably do too, Jason, that your nickname was Kiss Sucks.
Yeah.
You know? And I went through the same thing, you know, through the early 70s or mid 70s, I guess. I think I discovered Kiss on Rock and Roll Over. That was like my first thing, and my world just snapped. And what we were talking about music being so important, Kiss was mine. It wasn't my parents. It wasn't, my friends didn't even like Kiss. You know, the people I hung out with were just like, "Oh, do you like this crap?" You know, and I'm buying the dolls and shit, and I still have Gene Simmons doll right here. You know, but it was mine.
Yeah.
It wasn't anybody else's. Kiss were my band. And it meant so much to me. And I think that there's a lot of people that that don't understand when growing up in the 70s, like what that meant to a lot of kids, you know, especially getting younger, like my age. I mean, Jason, you know, you're a couple years older than I am. I think you got like, you're 60, right? You got like 4 years on me.
I'm 60.
So,
Yep.
and yeah, I'm 56. So it's like, it's, you know, I got into it with the lunch boxes and stuff, right?
Yeah.
You were a little bit before that. But how much it meant to us as kids to have a band like that, and they didn't back down. They didn't care, you know, and, you know, it was, yeah, definitely something that completely shaped my life. And I never, Dave, I never, denounced Kiss or anything like that. I mean, at that time when I met you, I was living on 38th Street, and I had one of the Subway posters in my living room. You know, the Kiss Alive Subway poster, and or all the live shots, not Kiss Alive, but the live shot Subway poster, not the post Subway poster. See, I'm a nerd. I know there's a difference between those two massive Subway posters, but it was hanging right in my living room. You know, it's that never went away. They were always the band. You know, I didn't wear them on my sleeve, you know, as I did when I was a kid, or maybe how I might do now. You know, I think I got, you know, the Kiss Army tattoo.
Yeah.
But you know, it was, I mean, I wish we would have, kind of got together with that and geeked out a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it should have been obvious. I mean, your I don't want to call it your fan club, but LCB Army. I mean, it's right there in the name, you know?
That was, so
That's
the
a huge...
LCB Army, when we did that, started, I wanted to do something that was a mix between the Kiss Army and the Sham Army. We're from Sham 69. Sham had the Sham Army.
Okay,
Kiss
yeah.
had the Kiss Army. So LCB Army, that was it. That's exactly where it came from.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us real quick before we close, where are you in terms of writing a new album?
Marty?
We are, I mean, we've got songs in the works right now. It's just a matter of organizing and getting together and doing some recording and stuff. So, you know, hopefully that'll be happening soon.
We're doing one of them live. We have a song called Rumble Strip that we've been playing live for the past year or so that's never been recorded.
Okay.
I'm really hoping that the rest of the songs kind of go along this same line. It's getting older, and writing, I have to remember that of how we wrote when we were younger, when I was younger, of like how I wrote lyrics. And I had a thing in my head of like, you know, and this changed throughout the 30 years, and I'm sure Jason can relate to something like this, but when we first started, I wrote anthems. Every song had to be an anthem. It had to be sing-along, and, you know, and then throughout the years of, you know, my music taste change or whatever, and I started lyrically writing songs, and there's a massive difference between writing a song and writing an anthem. And getting back into that anthem thing is important to me for these new songs that we're doing. At least for me, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I was curious, you know, at our age, you know, how difficult is it for you to continue writing when your style of music, when you're known for a style of music that is so anthemic and us against them and defiant and all that stuff. And then, as you say, you grow older and you still have that streak of rebellion in you. All of us do. That's why we are who we are. But is it more challenging or more difficult? Are you a little more self-aware or self-conscious of, this is going to sound like a teenager, and I'm not a teenager anymore, but I don't want to alienate myself from our audience? How much of all that comes into your brain when you're thinking about this stuff?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks because, you know, it's when you think like that, and I do and have, I'm thinking too much about it. I'm not just going.
Yeah, but you're being honest to yourself and who you are as a man, as opposed to a drunk idiot.
Sure, but I think I also think that I'm picking myself apart too much instead of going, oh, this just sounds good. You know, and there's a lot of times when writing lyrics, the lyrics don't even fucking matter as long as it sounds good with the music. The lyrics doesn't even, and I'm the type of guy which will sit there and go, oh no, this word is not correct here, and I find myself overthinking, and times I have to stop and just go, don't do that. It sounds good with the music. That's all that matters, you know. And it has a hook. The chorus has a hook. The lyrics are that hook. Doesn't even matter what the fucking lyrics are saying, as long as the song is good.
I totally relate to what you're saying. You know, when you think about going on almost 40 years ago now, or it's not quite 40 years, but an anthem like Sportin' a Woody, and then like, not to pick on you, but Rose Tattoo, We Can't Be Beaten, you know, those type of anthems, there's a totally different, it's a political stance in who you are with We Can't Be Beaten, and it's I've got a hard on, and I'm obviously a child man that doesn't know how to really write a thoughtful song yet, and this is all I got. So
Sportin' a Woody's an amazing song. You know that.
You know, you get lucky sometimes. But you know, today I'm not going to write that song.
Sure.
No, that's kind of a lie. But I'm trying. Damn it, I want to be a songwriter, and I feel, as you guys, whether you know or not, I've really, really tried to become just a songwriter, to be able to write any kind of fucking song that has emotional value to it. I don't care if it's country, pop, yacht rock, hardcore thrash, whatever. I want to be able to write any kind of song I want, and that's what I feel like I'm getting from you.
Oh yeah.
You want to be able to be articulate with your lyrics, because now you can, and it's not just fuck you all the time. If you're really trying to make a difference, you will think about what it is that the lyrics are saying to a point, because that, you know, overthinking it is different than what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
Yeah, and I feel like the music grows the same way. You guys have been around forever now. I'm sure Marty's riffs are not saying the exact same thing they were back then. And once again, just like you, Bones, Marty may or may not. Marty, I'm sorry if I'm putting words in your mouth, but the riffs are not just going to be the same riff again and again and again, unless you consciously are going for a certain thing that's going to relate to some, like part two of something else, you know?
Yeah. Well, in Jason, in your defense, you never imagined you to be 60 years old singing Sportin' a Woody. So, yeah.
Well, the fact that Bones is right, the fact that people my age or even older or even younger, there's, you know, 15-year-olds that go, yeah, it's my favorite song. I'm like, wait, what? Well, and then kind of makes sense that it's their favorite song, because that's the, you know, when I was in my 20s, I still had a 15-year-old mind.
Right. And
apparently,
I think all four of us, I mean, all four of us in this room today, that's one of the things that resonates with us. This, you know, I always like to joke that this was not a phase. You know, I'm 58 years old, Jason's 60, Bones, you said you're 56, Marty's in that ballpark somewhere. We didn't outgrow this music, and that's what brings us together even still. And Bones, back to something you said before, you know, we all four of us have that band that we gravitated toward and latched onto, and they became ours. And Lower Class Brats is one of those bands for me. Broken Teeth is one of those bands for me. Sons of Hercules out of San Antonio, one of those bands to me. They're all bands that I knew in their infancy, like the day they started practically. And they just hit me right between the eyes. And it was just icing on the cake that the guys became friends of mine, and that I could stand behind the music, and I loved it. And I never got tired of it. And I mean, that's impressive, man. I'm pushing 60, and the Lower Class Brats are still my band, damn it. You know,
they speak your language.
Yes,
Dave. That's all.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, they do.
You have besides like, having Dave, and then we got 3 musicians here, and you are just as big as the musicians in what you have contributed to the metal scene and to the punk scene and just the rock scene in general. Having you as a fan, and I'm sure Jason and Marty will agree, not to put words in your mouth, of course, you're the fan that every band wishes it could have.
I've said these exact words before.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
it's true.
that.
It's 100% true. We're lucky, extremely lucky to have you have our back. It means a lot. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And, you earned it because not everybody does. That it's a special band that comes along that for whatever reason catches me just the right way, and it'll never go away. And I've said it before, Broken Teeth, Lower Class Brats, Sons of Hercules. It happens from time to time. And, music was so important to me and still is that I've always said I was never going to be the guy on stage. So what can I do to contribute? I have to be a part of this. I have to be involved in this. And writing became my thing. So, okay, I'm not going to be the musician. I'm not going to be recording records in the studio. I'm not going to be on the radio, but I got to tell the world about this band, or I got to get people to this show. How can I be a part of this whole thing? And that was my contribution. So,
well, to mirror Bones, and certainly Marty will agree, every band wishes they had a fan like you. Because if they don't, they're fucked anyway.
Well, that's enough of that. I appreciate that. And guys, I appreciate you for joining us today. It's been long overdue. We've got a long history together, but I thought now was a good time since you've reissued Rather Be Hated Than Ignored. Awesome album, still stands up to this day. The mark of a great album when you can listen to it 30 years later, and it still gives you that same thrill that it did the day you heard it. So congratulations on the reissue. Everybody out there needs to go check it out, buy it, buy your second or third copy if you've already got it. And we appreciate you being here, and we'll look forward to you being in Texas because you promised on the Talk Louder podcast.
We'll be back. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
guys.
much. On behalf of my co-host, Jason McMaster, I'm Metal Dave, along with our special guest today, Lower Class Brats on the Talk Louder podcast.